Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Succession Season 3, Episode 7. Happy birthday, Kendall Roy. You have
Oh
quite
boy.
possibly the worst birthday party I have ever seen. This is the last birthday party I would ever want to attend.
Really? You don't even want to go down the hallway of compliments? You look
Listen,
fantastic.
I I would like
Sorry.
it for like a second, but then like once I got the vain part of my brain out of the picture, I would then be like, these people are being paid to compliment me. What do they really think about me? And I would go down a neurotic rabbit hole like nobody's business. This party,
I would have spent all night in that
okay,
compliment tunnel.
see,
It's better than the opening tunnel, which we won't say for fear of demonetization,
yes,
which was also quite strange.
like this entire party would be so bad for my mental well-being that I would probably, you think the meltdown that Kendall had at one point in this episode was bad? Me, after attending that party, I would have just been comatose. Nobody would have seen or heard from me for weeks.
That was a midlife crisis party like I've never seen. We'll get into that and more. But before we do, just wanted to say a belated happy Thanksgiving to everybody
Yes.
who celebrated. It just passed. We had a really fun time too. We have a bunch of pictures up at our Instagram, Matt and Jess TV, where
Yeah.
we had cheese balls and made advent calendars. There's all kinds of fun stuff there. But also subscribe. We're covering Succession every week until it's done. There's
Yeah.
not that many episodes left. This whole season's gone by real fast.
How did we find ourselves in that spot where, because it really does feel like this maybe been like two
I
episodes, and
know.
then we look at we're preparing for this, it's like, episode 7? How
I
are we
know.
on episode 7?
Okay, so before we get like too deep into the episode, I just want to have some appreciation for how well this show makes characters that are so unlikable, but then makes us feel for them. The only other show that I can really name off the top of my head, and I think I've compared these two shows before, is The Wire. And The
Yeah.
Wire has a bunch of real unlikable people on that show, but you still find these moments where you're rooting for them or you're feeling bad for them. And this show is a lot like that, where you have a bunch of very unlikable people. But oh my goodness, did my heart ever go out to Kendall by the end of this episode? I mean, like I said, it was a midlife crisis. Like, even when you went and saw his gifts, he has a motorcycle sitting in the back there. I'm just like, okay. But the one thing he wanted was the one thing, of course, that no one could really buy him, which was just that feeling of family. Even at the end, when he's like, I just want to go home. I want to have a home. Where's the gift? Oh my goodness, my kids made me something. Where is that gift? That's all that mattered. And he really realized that family and the people, having people that really love him, is really all that matters. And as he looks around his party, it's not there. Even Shiv mentioned, she was like, where's your friends? These are like celebrities and people you work with, but friends? Family? Yeah, we're here, but we're here so that we can cut a deal. Nobody's actually here for you. It was so heartbreaking.
This entire episode, I think, is the most cringe episode of television I have watched in a long time. And I will be honest, for about 50 minutes of it, I wanted nothing more than to punch Kendall Roy in the face, like so unbelievably hard. And I wanted a lot of other characters to punch Kendall Roy in the face.
Oh,
Like,
I thought that was going to happen right at the end. I
yeah.
thought this is it. This is when Roman and Kendall are going to actually punch it out.
Yeah. I thought Greg was, well, Greg kind of punched out Kendall, just not the real version of him. But I thought this was straight up bullying Greg, which is everybody's favorite thing to do on this show. But I was like, come on, Greg. I will have so much more respect for you if you do it. But that's the thing. I hated Kendall for most of this episode. He was pompous, he was obnoxious, he was rude, he was terrible. And yet, when he is just like tearing open the presents and having this full on meltdown and crying, and Jeremy Strong is so incredible in this role. It's like, okay, Kendall, what? Why? Why do I feel anything for you? You like humiliated other people in your family in unspeakably terrible ways. You don't treat anyone well, and yet even you, on some sort of like minute level, are deserving of some sort of love from your kids, and you're so desperate to have it.
Yeah, looking around that room and pile of gifts, and he's throwing watches around and breaking glass, just looking for whatever it is that his kids made him. Who knows, macaroni art that he really started to get it at the end of this episode. Is he gonna continue to get it past this episode? Probably not, but there were at least that moment where he really felt that his kids are really all he has, and that they put the thought and the love, that conversation that he was having. Oh, you got me this watch? What would make you get me
Yeah.
this watch? Like, what was the thought behind getting me this watch? Was there thought behind it? She's like, oh no, it's kind of a crappy gift, where he was just like, man, I've known you a little while now. Like that feeling of you should know me better, but you don't. So where am I landing in this? Like, what have I done so that the person I'm with doesn't even really know me well enough that they're just gonna, I'll just buy him a watch.
I gotta say that, Kendall, you probably need the love of your kids now more than ever, because I don't think you're gonna have Naomi much longer if you continue to do, like, it's true. It was not exactly the most thoughtful and kind and really appreciative gift out there. But Kendall also is just like, your gift sucks. And then somehow she's still like comforting. This is a very patient woman, Naomi, from what we're seeing.
Yeah, I actually really appreciated that she was showing love and compassion and kindness, seeing, if you just look around that party,
Yeah.
that party was a cry for help. He's got his old tree house, the hallway of compliments, like everything is, he was gonna have that huge stage production. I was so glad he pulled the plug on that. It was just very self-indulgent. Like, it was a midlife crisis party. It was just sad. By the end, he's looking around. It's sad. I feel sad about myself. It was nice to have that moment with Naomi where she really sat down with him and just gave him what he actually wanted for his birthday, which was just real love and appreciation and kindness and warmth and that feeling of being part of something.
I have never been more thankful than when Succession decided to not force us to watch another Kendall Roy musical number. I mean, in between the start of this episode, in between the rapping last season, like the plug was not pulled fast enough on some of this. Like,
Yeah.
if this party was not cringe enough, and I just think what I love about this episode, because I do think this is probably one of my favorite episodes of the season, is just it's just such a menagerie of awful. It's like everywhere you turn, there's either something awful happening or there's someone awful there. And even like the little things that shouldn't be awful somehow are, such as Kendall not even being able to convince Connor, my guy Connor's firing on all cylinders in this episode. Connor is not having that coat removed. I will remain coated. Thank you. It is my right. That is
My right.
that is one of the best lines of the entire season.
Okay, so Kendall also got a gift from his dad
Yeah.
and Roman, which is a really important distinction to make here, that it is turning into, this is sort of what started the darkest timeline here for Kendall at
Yeah.
this point, where he got this birthday card where it was scratched out happy birthday. Instead, it was just like cash out and F off. So when he opens up the letter, it's sort of this letter to buy him out for $2 billion, and Roman knew about it, and Roman signed off on it, and it was just the two of them that signed off on it, Shiv not included. So this has been a very difficult episode for Shiv, where she was riding high for a little while there with her president title, but not so much now. She is being cut out.
Apparently, being the president doesn't mean you get to actually have your name on important pieces of paper. That is what you're figuring out now, Shiv. And it's a very good win for Roman. It shows that he is very close to Logan in some way. It puts Shiv in a position where there's nothing for her to do other than just like hit the dance floor and go nuts. Like, come on. Like, that dance interlude from Shiv on the floor.
So funny.
It was It was the perfect, because we've all been around people like this. They're the people who go to a really, really terrible, like obnoxious party. They've had an awful day. They're not enjoying themselves, but at a certain point, they're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna just go for it on the dance floor, and everything will be better, and everyone else is looking at them and laughing. That was Shiv.
There was something very interesting that Roman pointed out with Shiv.
Yeah.
Like, is she falling down this hole because she's getting cut out of the company? Or is it because we learned that Tom is not going to jail and that there was
Yeah.
a part of her that, I mean, she was acting like she truly just didn't really care that Tom was going to jail and that maybe this was going to be a little bit of freedom for her for a while where she just didn't have to deal with Tom anymore. And I wonder why they don't just get divorced. Like, this relationship is not working for either of them. Just end it.
I don't know. It's like, are they so concerned with optics? Do they not think they're gonna find anybody? It's so bizarre because even Tom at the end of the episode, he just says, "Oh, I'm gonna be out late. I may not come back for a while." And it's sort of like the indication to me was like, okay, Tom, your best moment of happiness here apparently does not involve Shiv. Like, his big celebratory moment in this episode is him just completely ravaging Greg's office. And it's like Greg gets the celebration, though granted, I don't know if that's a celebration I want if I'm Greg, but that's where the moment is. It's not with his wife.
Yeah, there was that sort of moment missing from this whole episode. The only people that he seemed to celebrate with were Greg, and there was that moment with Logan who walked by Tom and kind of leaned in and was like, "I'll remember what you did. Like, I'll remember that you did this for me, that you offered this for me, that it's not going to go unnoticed or or forgotten." But Shiv, nothing. No, oh, I'm so relieved. I'm so happy. We should be celebrating this. Nothing. It's a ghost town.
She is, I think, so concerned with her own fate, with her own future, what she's going to get and not get. I think she must have thought a couple weeks ago, okay, I'm going to put up with this nonsense for a little while. People are going to go away. I will be here to pick up the pieces from the rubble. And yet somehow Logan Roy remains the biggest, nastiest serpent who can just slither out of any problem imaginable, apparently, and have no charges or anything ever put on him.
Yeah, nothing happened, which is kind of what I think we all should have expected to happen. Because, I mean, this happens in life a lot as well. If you have enough money, you can kind of get out of whatever situation you are in. I think I was just hoping for something a bit different. Not that Logan was going to go to jail or he was going to be off the show or anything like that, but I think I was looking forward to just the power shift, that maybe there would be Kendall a little bit higher, that for a little while maybe Kendall would actually be running the company until it shifted, and it just never came around.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in that, and I'm also just disappointed. It felt very sort of like, ho hum, all right, story's done. It's just like they kind of just brought it up and sort of resolved it in the first few minutes of this episode. It's kind of like, we've been building this all season. We had a freaking FBI raid at one point that caused Tom to make a terrible speech. It's like, I want more payoff, and maybe there still is some more payoff, and we just don't know about it yet. But it did sort of feel like, all right, we're just gonna move things right along here to Kendall's birthday party. Pay no attention to this anymore.
The person who's getting a lot of payoff right now is my boy Roman. I love Roman, and I'll make it clear, I don't love Roman that I think he's a good guy. He's also a terrible person, and he was terrible in this episode as well. But I find him really fascinating. I think there's a lot of behind all that bravado and nastiness and entitlement. There's some secrets in there and some rawness in there that he's really been hiding for a very long time. But he finally is getting some wins. The first couple seasons, he really wasn't much of a player. He was always had some good ideas, but no one was really taking him that seriously. But Logan is now taking him really seriously.
And it brings us into the introduction. Here we are 15 minutes in, and we are getting to Alexander Skarsgård, who had by far, I think, one of the greatest gigs out there. He basically just sat in a chair for the entire episode, just like chilled. He really didn't have to do very much. And even his lines, he was basically, I mean, that's this character, I guess. He's just sort of a mumbler. So congratulations, Eric Northman. Your new role is now just mumbling while people have a conversation about you and being really kind of weird in the process about some of the things you want.
This has been such a good season for guest roles. Like, it really has. Alexander Skarsgård is great.
Yeah, and Lucas Matson, he is the sort of big fish that Logan now needs, mostly because Logan has already annoyed him to no end. And here comes Roman, who has to make it through security and all of Kendall's annoyances to actually have a conversation. And I felt so proud of Roman after this, even though at one point it involved something happening to an app in a urinal that I dare not want to speak of or imagine ever again. I'm still proud of Roman for finding a way to pull this off.
Yeah, he found a way to really bond with him, and it all really worked out. We saw him at the end of the episode even being like, I'm gonna walk home, I'm feeling myself. I feel like we're building for this season, and I could end up being wrong, but because Roman is the person who's building, it feels like we're going to end up with some sort of a Roman crash or some sort of a cliffhanger with him. They've been kind of, okay, we're 16 minutes in now. I'm going to get into this. Here's sort of this theory that I'm kind of circling around, because it feels like the show has been kind of circling around the idea that Roman is into men. He may be into women as well, but it's hard to know what's going on with him. So we've had him with this relationship with Jerry where he's not really with her. Then he has this relationship with this girlfriend and she's never around, and they're not actually being physical together. So tonight we had Shiv call that out, that Roman is with women, but he's never actually physically with any women at all. We saw him with Mencken, where there was some kind of like chemistry there. There was some tense intensity in the moment where they were talking together, where I was kind of like, something's happening here, I feel. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm reading the room wrong, but I felt like something. Then we also had Logan a few episodes ago use some derogatory terms and call that out on Roman, who denied it, of course, because he's in a family that I think if he was into men would not be okay with it, would not accept it, would treat him differently, would treat him badly. So he's just going to sit on that. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it kind of feels like maybe they're circling that, and maybe that might end up being the big sort of cliffhanger at the end of this season. If he's really feeling himself, oh, I've got the deals, I'm working closely with Dad, I'm feeling really good about myself, why not be the time for me to kind of secretly do something where maybe Dad won't find out, but then maybe he will?
I think it's possible. I do think, either this is something about himself that he's known, but he hasn't been able to act on it for all the reasons you mentioned, or maybe it is a situation where he's still kind of figuring it out, and maybe he's going to have some sort of revelation about this. Because, I mean, you said it. There was decidable chemistry with him and Mencken, as awful.
I thought so, too.
Yeah, as awful as Mencken is. And then it's also all of this stuff with Matson, which is just really, really strange. And it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic by trade or anything like that, but it is just like the back and forth, the rapport between the two of them was also just weird. And in general, this is pretty unrelated to just Roman as a character, but never in my life, ever, have I ever thought, I want to go into a bathroom with somebody and then have a collective, we're going to do our business on an object sort of celebration. Has this ever happened in real life? Like, who does this?
I don't know, but it was interesting that was what was suggested. And then when they got into the bathroom, Roman all of a sudden was like, I'm unable to do this with another guy here. I found that interesting as well.
There's just a lot of interestingness around Roman that I think is going to be explored, like you said, over the last couple of episodes of this season. And while we're here, I'm going to cast out another sort of theory about. I think Greg's moment is coming in these next two episodes. I think we already know he's got the papers. I know that Succession is currently pretending like that storyline didn't happen for some stupid reason.
Well, it's resolved, allegedly.
Allegedly. But here's the thing. Greg, you've got a new love interest who maybe doesn't hate you from what we can sort of see. I mean, it's a little bit early to actually know this. She could ultimately just be using him one way or another.
It just feels like there's nothing for Greg to do. Like, they don't have anything for him. And we even had this scene with Kendall where he called Greg out for being a parasite and leeching onto the family and trying to get whatever he can out of the family, which kind of explains the whole family. I mean, they're all doing that to some degree. But that's really all that we have been seeing with Greg lately. He's here to take what he can from the family and be this comic relief. And since he's not really playing with the papers anymore and this is all cleaned up, I mean, what are they doing with him? Greg needs more of a role. He really does.
This is where I think that this Comfrey character could come into play. Like, if she actually does hate working for Kendall, and it's kind of easy to see why you would hate working for Kendall.
Who doesn't want 18 He-Man lunchboxes?
Okay, well, give a couple of them is probably nice. I don't know if I need 18, but it is just, if she really hates Kendall, and if she actually really likes Greg, maybe she could really legitimately empower him and make him feel like, okay, I can do something. I can actually carve a piece of this for myself, because every other person treats Greg like human garbage. So like, even with Comfort, everyone was like, oh, she's so out of your league. Don't waste your time. Kendall's like threatening him over it. I want this for you, Greg, mostly because I do not want this season for you, Greg, where you're not really doing anything.
I just hope that if they're bringing this relationship in, that it's going to be more than just a comic relief situation where we get to see him go out on awkward dates and be funny and be awkward. Okay, I get it. Greg needs like an actual story.
Yeah, he needs an actual story. And Connor, I hate to say it because I love you. You need an actual story as well. As much as I love hearing about you polling at 1% and how proud you are of that 1%. Good on you, Connor, for managing to swindle that many people into thinking you're a viable candidate. But we eventually need something more than just reminding us that you're a moron, even if I do appreciate that.
Yes, he also needs something to do.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments what you guys thought about Succession Season 3, Episode 7. Have you kept your coat on for the entirety of this discussion? Be sure to let us know and hit that like button, subscribe for more updates, including Dexter, New Blood, Power Book 2, Ghost. We have all sorts of great stuff here at the channel. We hope to see you here next time.